Don't mind her. She has green hair and pronouns.
Yeah, okay, Satan. It's going in the fucking video. He just fucking hit it. I meant her. You fucking transphobic fat motherfucker. Sorry to be fat phobic. How did I not know about this game? Seriously, I love martial arts films and I love beat 'em up video games. So how did this slip under my radar until it had already been out for a couple of weeks? So what does Sifu mean? It's basically Chinese for master. Wait, does that mean Master Sifu means master? That's just confusing. I'll just rename him Master Steve. Sifu is a beat 'em up kung fu game that came out near the beginning of last month, and I absolutely love it. I didn't even know about its existence until about an hour before I started streaming it on twitch.tv/EvanTheRebel, and I played it for about 10.5 hours on my first go. That's nothing new for how long I've streamed a game, but unlike the last beat 'em up game I streamed, this one didn't make me want to yank my hair out because of how much it sucked. I bought a copy on PS5 since I only have like 2 games on it, and I really needed to justify spending money on one. That, I didn't know that the game was also on PC, but it's on Epic, so go fuck yourself. Nah, just kidding, I don't really care what platform it's on. I kinda wish I did get it on PC, that way I could try out all the different mods for it. But oh well, at least the controller vibrations are pretty cool on PS5. Also, I only spent $40 on it, which is great because spending $60 on a digital copy of a game when a physical copy exists should be illegal if you ask me. Let's talk about the game's story real quick before I start talking about other stuff. The game opens up with you controlling some guy that looks like the lead singer of Deathclock. You storm your way through this kung fu school until you make your way to the master. They don't really call him anything besides Sifu, so I'll just assume his name is also Master. After you have some strong words with him, you politely stop his heart, and then Danny Trejo over here kills his kid. Turns out the kid survives due to some kung fu magic doohickey, and now they're out for revenge. I say there because you can pick your gender. The beat 'em up genre is one that has plenty of classics under its belt, so what does Sifu bring to the table? Dying plays a big part in the gameplay mechanic because the magical kung fu doohickey that saved you in the beginning of the game also saves you every time you get killed in the game. But here's the neat twist. Every time you die, you age whenever you revive. And depending on how many times you die, that's the amount of years you'll be aging whenever you come back. Humans don't exactly live forever, so you've got till your 70s before you finally croak completely. Getting older has its pros and its cons. The older you get, the more damage you can do, but this is at the expense of having a smaller health bar. Also, a lot of the unlockable perks and abilities have age restrictions on them, so if you get too old, you'll be blocked from unlocking them.
Strike me down, I shall become older than you could possibly imagine!
So there you go. There's your gimmick for the game. Now how about the beat 'em up part of it?
Penis punch, kick, dodge, punch, kick. That went pretty well.
Yeah, the fighting in this game kicks ass. You have these awesome finisher moves that you can do once you get your enemy's guard broken that I never get tired of seeing. You'll find yourself taking on entire rooms of people at a time and just going ballistic as you switch between people to hit. There's weapons scattered around the levels that you can use to inflict as much punishment as possible if you don't feel like using your hands. I find myself to be a grandmaster in the art of hitting people with bricks.
Pick up your weapon.
Brick.
2 more challenges.
To reveal the path you must.
That's a brick, man!
Yeah, this game definitely has a learning curve to it. I'd be lying if I didn't say it was really hard at first.
Well, that was...
It's a really difficult game. I like the game.
Hell, in the first 10.5 hours I streamed of this game, I only made it to the 3rd boss because I kept starting over because I'd get too old by the time I would get to that point. You're definitely gonna die a lot in your first run of the game. I definitely did. But the more you play the game, the more you get into the rhythm of it all. Remember those abilities I said you get locked out of if you get too old? Well, you have the option to permanently buy them so that you don't lose them. You just buy them however many times it tells you, and then you'll keep the ability the next time you start the game over. This makes a world of difference, and before you know it, you'll find yourself getting to the end of the game without hardly aging. Just be sure that you don't actually create a new save when you restart. Just go to the level selection and go back to the first level to start again, and keep your permanent abilities. I wish I had known this on my first run because I kept starting over completely and not keeping any anything. You don't have to buy every ability to beat the game. I only use about half of them, and I do just fine. Just make sure you grab important ones like Environmental Mastery, Slide Kick, Weapon Mastery, Raining Strikes, and Ground Counter. These abilities ended up being the most useful to me. There's also these statues scattered throughout levels that you can use to upgrade certain things like your guard, how durable your weapons are, or even increase the amount of focus you have. Now, what is focus? You have this little bar down at the bottom left of the screen, and whenever you get it filled up, you can do a special attack on an enemy. It's very handy if you're just trying to stun them so you can get more hits in. The abilities I found myself upgrading at statues were the ones that would make my weapons tougher and do more damage, and also abilities that would refill my bars quicker if I avoided or parried enemy attacks. I don't think these abilities are permanent unlocks, and you'll have to buy them again the next time you start over, so you'll get plenty of opportunities to mix up the style you want to play. Alright, when it comes to fighting games, I like having a bullshit offense. I like being able to just pound an enemy into submission without skipping a beat. Yeah, the game kind of lets you play like that in some areas, but for a good chunk of it all, you're definitely going to want to be playing this game defensively. You'll have 3 different ways of doing so. You can just simply dodge, which is the safest option. You can avoid, which just has you swaying away from attacks. You can avoid up or down depending on where your enemy is aiming for. Or you can take the riskier option and parry by blocking just as an enemy attack is about to land. This can give you the opportunity to retaliate quicker and also break their guard quicker too. But it's the trickiest option. Plus, there are some attacks you can't parry without risking your guard being broken. Also, parrying the first attack does not cancel out the second attack. It took me a while to realize this because I'm used to Dark Souls where parrying just stops them in their tracks completely. So yeah, you're gonna be parrying a couple of attacks before you can finally retaliate. I'm definitely going into detail on the mechanics in this game. That's because I want to get it across that there's so many different ways you can go about playing. I found myself switching up my playstyle a lot the first couple of playthroughs to see what worked best for me. I love it when games give you so many tools at your disposal to tackle an obstacle. The variety of abilities made sure that I never got sick of playing. I've lost count of how many times I've played this game all the way through. Now that I've praised the game's mechanics, I want to get back to talking about the story. After the prologue, the game shows the main character's shadow training against the 5 bosses you'll have to deal with in an all-red environment, while you have this soundtrack straight out of a martial arts film playing in the background. It lets you know what you'll be dealing with later on, and the different moves you can use against different enemy types. And after you defeat the final shadow boss, the finishing blow syncs up to the title card. Alright, so far the game's got me. Damn, I love shit like that. Oh, I'm pumped to go kick some ass. There's 5 levels in total. Each level has its own unique setting with an end boss. This is not a walkthrough on how to beat the levels, it's more of a synopsis. I just kind of winged it through the game, so I really can't give too many tips. I'll give some when I can, but don't expect too much. The first level is called the Squats. You have to make your way through apartment buildings to get to a warehouse to fight some guy that looks like Danny Trejo. I mean, just look at his description you wrote down. Machete, mustache. Ooh. I'll tell you who, Danny fucking Trejo. Right from the get-go, the level designs in this game are great. You're always pushing forward to the end and you can end up in these wide open areas with plenty of room to avoid enemies, or you'll be in tight rooms where you can get surrounded pretty quickly. There's collectibles scattered around the levels to pick up. Some of them can actually help you later on, such as finding keys that can unlock a door on a different level, so keep a lookout for those. This level does a great job of getting the fast pace going by having you running up the stairs of this apartment building, clearing anyone that gets in your way while also jumping from building to building trying to get to the warehouse. I guess they make drugs there and you have some junkies passed out on couches along the way. And honestly, if you ask me, that's a good thing. Think about it, junkie kung fu masters tweaked out of their goddamn minds, just running around. They'd be the ultimate apex predator and nobody could stop them. So I think it's a good thing that the game had them passed out on the couch. The game already scores huge points for me right from the first level when it pays homage to Oldboy. No, not that Spike Lee remake, I mean the original South Korean version. It's a masterpiece and you should definitely watch it. Fuck the American version, it's a piece of shit. Remember when Daredevil had that hallway fight scene they did in one take and it was cool as shit? Yeah, Oldboy did that back in 2003. They get the look of the hallway down and even go the extra mile by having it be in a sideways perspective just like the film. And then top it all off by having a shot showing all the people on the floor when it's all over. God damn, I love Oldboy. Seriously, go watch it. Okay, back to Sifu. So after getting to the end, you face the first boss. He's not too bad, though he does have these ground kicks that can knock you down if you're not careful. I just parry and avoid his attacks while sneaking in some heavy attacks because his guard isn't that strong. Kung Fu movie logic applies to this game, so don't worry whenever the environment suddenly changes and people are flying through the air doing kicks. I just chalk it up to Kung Fu magic. The cool thing about finishing enemies off in this game is that you don't actually have to bring their health all the way down. All you have to do is just break their guard, and that'll allow you to finish them off. Bosses are a little different since each boss battle has 2 phases, so you'll have to do it twice. The second half of the boss battle is a little trickier than the first one since now you have a machete to deal with. Luckily there's bamboo lying around to make the fight go easier. Just get his guard down and finish him off by giving him a taste of his own cutthroat medicine. Pretty good level. The highlight though is obviously the hallway part. The next level is called The Club, and it's a nightclub called The Club. They should have probably given it a cool name like Shit Dynasties or something.
Shady Nasties?
Shit Dynasties, asshole.
I think I've probably played this level the most. If you thought the first level wasn't that tricky, well, this is when the game apologizes for not being hard enough on you and then goes right for your balls. After dealing with a couple of bouncers, you get thrown onto this open dance floor filled with enemies. Here's the one tip I will give you. Go for the women first. Seriously, just hit them right in the face. They're easier to deal with than the guys 90% of the time. Don't get mad at me. I didn't make the fucking game, okay? They just go down easier for some reason, alright? I respect women. Go for the woman first!
She was just doing yoga.
Go for the woman first. Stop being a nice guy and let me kick her ass. Women first. This level is a lot more colorful than the last one. There's neon lights laying all over the floor, some people are wearing glow-in-the-dark clothing, and you've got techno music blasting over most of the level. I guess knowing martial arts is a requirement to get into the club because everyone in here from club goers to the bartenders knows Kung Fu. I'm talking about you specifically, killer Kung Fu wolf bitch bartenders. They attack simultaneously, and holy shit, they're annoying.
Are those your best moves?
Did I just get double teamed? Luckily, I've developed a strategy to deal with them pretty quickly, and that strategy is a bottle to the face. About 2/3 through the level is when you end up in some back streets where everything is on fire for some reason. It was probably Sean's punk ass not putting a cigarette out before tossing it. Oh yeah, the boss is named Sean. Talk about a name to really strike fear into me. So for this last chunk of the level, you have to fight Sean's anime harem to reach him. Good thing there's plenty of bricks lying around.
I am a master of brick.
Sean was a pain in the ass to deal with on my first run of the game, but once I figured out how basic his attack pattern was, he became real easy to deal with. My theory about Sean starting that fire earlier was probably true, because he puts his cigarette out halfway through the fight and burns the entire room you're fighting in. Gotta love Kung Fu magic. This might be my favorite level of the entire game. Either that or I just have Stockholm Syndrome from playing it too many times. The next level is the museum, and by far, it's the best looking level in the game. They really got creative with this level. You have to fight your way up 3 or 4 floors, and you go through different exhibits to get there. There's really cool looking paintings and statues all over the place. A highlight for me is the room with things of paint hanging from the ceiling that you can throw at the 2 enemies. Seriously, make sure you have environmental mastery unlocked as early as possible when you play this game. Another highlight of the level is when it goes into side-scroller mode again, and you fight your way down another hallway. They honestly could have just made an entire level in this style, and I wouldn't have been that upset. Or just make a bonus level where you have to fight down a really long hallway. I think the only guy that would probably love that more than me would probably be Darth Vader.
Which one of you motherfuckers called my mom gay?
They got really creative on the last chunk of the level where everything is just silhouettes and the rooms you go through just glow a single color. There's statues scattered everywhere and some of them turn out to be enemies. It looks really cool, but it's almost ruined when these 2 nerds show up with their glowing banana shoes. More Kung Fu magic happens and you somehow end up at the place where they filmed the final fight in Kill Bill Volume 1. This could have been my favorite level in the entire game, but it's ruined by this Lucy Liu looking bitch. She's easily my least favorite boss in the entire game. At least for the first half of her fight. Unless you brought a weapon with you, you're going to be fighting her barehanded while she has this bladed staff that she's always swinging. I invest in abilities that make my focus go up quicker when I parry attacks, so I just start parrying away and I go for a leg sweep to break her guard. I like fast-paced fighting, so yeah, it's a bummer when you have to keep waiting for her to stop swinging that thing to run in and get a quick jab. The second half of the fight is way better since she changes up weapons. Just know when to parry and avoid her long-distance attacks. Also, if you have weapon catch unlocked, you can just grab and throw her kunai right back at her. It really sucks that the first half of this fight kind of blows because everything else about this level is great. Fourth level is called the Tower, and honestly, it's a downgrade from the last level if you ask me. Everything's colored golden shower yellow in this building. You have to fight your way through to get to this one-armed hag. There's some neat sections like when you're fighting on top of a dropping elevator, and I'll give the level some points for making me laugh when this guy I beat glitched out in the elevator. Due to more kung fu magic, you end up in some rocky pit in the later parts of the level. There's also an achievement you can get if you kill yourself by running off the side of one of the platforms to get to the bottom quicker.
No, I didn't mean to go down here.
The boss is easier than the last one. She uses a ranged weapon, but she's a lot easier to counter. Just parry her first 2 lunge attacks and step over the low swing. Same applies to the second half of the fight, except sometimes she adds in this grab attack before her usual combo. Just parry and avoid, then run in and get some quick hits. I really don't have that much to say about this level. It's the blandest level in the entire game. At least the first level had the old boy hallway fight. With how easy the boss was, this level feels like it should have been placed before the museum. Alright, now we're on the final level, the Sanctuary. Sounds like a really cool hidden fortress somewhere. Now it's a spa.
Welcome to the Sanctuary.
I don't mind this one that much. There's plenty of rooms you can explore in the facility. I like that you can interrupt a yoga session and the entire class will watch you beat up the instructor. I forgot to mention one of my favorite mechanics of the game. You can sometimes make enemies hit one another if you dodge their attacks.
Way to hit your wife, you dumb ass. That's how you're supposed to do it.
Final boss time. So that guy that killed your dad in the beginning is named Yang, and they spice up his boss battle by removing the ability to use focus attacks against him. You're pretty much going to have to play this fight entirely defensively, because if you try and just attack him, you're going to get parried most likely. Invest heavily in abilities that break your enemy's guard if you parry their attacks, because you're going to be parrying a lot in this fight. Be sure to unlock raining strikes so that you can get multiple hits off on it whenever you get an opening. The first half of this fight isn't that bad if you get good at parrying and avoiding his attacks. The same method applies to the later half, but his attacks get more varied. The worst is whenever he pulls a leg sweep out of nowhere. Plus his guard goes back up quicker than all the other bosses. So you gotta play really aggressively while being defensive at the same time, as much sense as that makes. Like I said earlier, raining strikes is your best friend in this fight. After you finally beat him, you get some sweet revenge for Daddy by stopping Yang's heart. Once this happens, you're shown this cutscene.
His hands go out like lightning, and the other doesn't want to fight anymore.
That's the Chinese mystical way of saying, hey fucker, play it again, but don't kill them this time. That's right, if you want to get the true ending of this game, you gotta beat all the bosses without killing them. In order to do this, whenever you get to the second stage of a boss fight, you have to break their guard, but don't kill them. Just let them recover and then you have to break it again. Then it'll give you the option to spare them. Let me tell you that this was harder for me than just killing them. Not because you have to get their guard down twice, but because sometimes I'd accidentally kill the bosses instead of sparing them. I'd get so caught up in the fight that as soon as that pop-up would show up, it would just be a reflex to go for the kill.
Son of a bitch, I fucking killed her. God damn it.
This happened on more than one occasion, especially to Sean. I think I ended up accidentally killing him 3 times in a row just because he's so goddamn annoying, and by the time you get done fighting him, you just want to kill him. Thankfully, most of the levels have shortcuts to get to the bosses. The best shortcut is the 3rd level, where you can take an elevator straight up to the boss right from the beginning. You even get to bring a weapon with you. But yeah, I had to learn a little restraint in order to spare these bosses, especially whenever you bring their health down quicker than you can break their guard. So you spare the first 4 bosses, and these symbols appear on this even bigger symbol after you spare one. Right before you fight Yang at the end, you can make these symbols appear on the wall right before you go to fight him. Yang is definitely the hardest boss to spare. After you break his guard twice and spare him, you enter a 3rd phase of the boss battle where you both lose your health bars and you have to break his guard a 3rd time. And holy shit, did this take me forever to do. His guard goes back up so quickly if you mess up. And by mess up I mean if he gets a hit on you, or if you miss an attack on him, it just immediately starts dipping. Not to mention he can break your guard incredibly easy. I was able to break his guard quickly the first time I tried this. I must have been at an older age and doing more damage on him that time, because it took me over 20 minutes to finally break his guard when I streamed it. It didn't help that I was talking to my friends, so my focus wasn't entirely on getting into the rhythm of the fight. Yeah, I got pretty heated during this part.
I beat him so fucking easy the first goddamn time. But now it's being fucking stupid. I don't even care that he killed my fucking dad. He's killing my fucking free time.
After I calmed down, I finally figured out how to deal with him. All you want to do is just keep parrying, and as soon as he has an opening, just strike once. Because if he gets his guard up before you can get another hit in, he'll most likely just dodge it, and you'll have to start all over. So just parry your ass off and get in a hit. With how quickly his guard broke once I started doing this, I can't believe how long it took me to get through this section. Fucking yes! Get fucked! I blame myself for trying to play offensively when that clearly was the wrong strategy. Anyways, you finally beat him, and after some weird Uno reverse heart punch attack, you finally complete the symbol, and then you find yourself where the training montage from Kung Fu Panda took place. After the credits finish rolling, it shows that you've taken the title of Sifu for yourself and have rebuilt the martial arts school from the beginning of the game, all while sparing those that killed your father. Well, this game was great. I've put over 30 hours into it, and I've replayed it who knows how many times. It's definitely worth the $40, and you should give it a play, whether it's on PS4, PS5, or PC. I wasn't even planning on doing a video for this game, but by the time I got to the second level, I knew I was gonna have to talk about this extensively. I would have finished the game quicker and gotten to this video sooner, but then Elden Ring had to go and drop, and then that sucked all my free time into it for a couple days. But I finally got back into Sifu. If we're getting games this good early on in the year, then I can't wait to see what we get later on. Definitely a game that you play for gameplay over story. I mean, it's nice that they put in an ending for sparing the bosses and not killing for revenge. I guess the Chinese have an old proverb for revenge being bad. Too bad they don't have an old proverb for respecting a country's sovereignty, though.